We have significant news right now. This is shaping up to be probably one of the most important and consequential weeks as it relates to the Epstein files to date. All while the numbers are in from last night's Super Bowl halftime performances, the Bad Bunny versus Turning Point USA discourse. Well, there really wasn't any discourse. Bad Bunny show had over 128 million viewers. On the contrary, Turning Point USA had anywhere from 4 to 6 million viewers of their show. It was pre recorded, it wasn't live, and well, it didn't really hit any culturally significant audiences. And so you have a situation now where Republicans, including the president of the United States, pretended to boycott the Bad Bunny show despite new clips showing that the president actually did watch the Bad Bunny show. And well, the alternative halftime show was all for naught. So let's just jump right into it. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The more you like, the more people watch, and the more this is get pushed out. And I think this is important for people to know. And please consider supporting my work by subscribing to my Substack. Click the link below. I want to start by going through the halftime show numbers because I think that's an important metric of where things are. An independent report confirms that Turning Point USA's MAGA-aligned All-American halftime show, which was headlined by a visibly lip-singing Kid Rock, and framed as entertainment for a, quote, underserved conservative American, drew about 4 to 6 million concurrent viewers during the live stream on YouTube. Bad Bunny's projected audience in comparison, about 128 million Super Bowl viewers. Now, the TPUSA show did accumulate about 18 million total views after the game, but truthfully, that was due to post-game curiosity rather than wanting to boycott the Bad Bunny show. I do want to take a minute and talk about some of the culturally significant moments within the Bad Bunny show. I watched it again this morning, and there were times that people just didn't realize what was happening. And here, let me break some of the stuff down because this was a really well put together show. The show was saturated with Puerto Rican cultural references, pairing songs rooted in island life and memory. They had older men playing dominoes, Lady Gaga wearing a Florida the MAGA brooch, and Bad Bunny and dancers climbing sparking light poles as a pointed nod to the island's chronic power grid failures. He briefly sampled music from Daddy Yankee and Don Omar as a tribute to the reggaeton pioneers who broke into U.S. mainstream before him. It also wove diasporic identity into spectacle by featuring Villa's Tacos, which is a beloved Highland Park taqueria, as part of a walk-through marketplace alongside other Puerto Rican businesses. They also featured the last Puerto Rican club in New York, one of the last standing ones, the Caribbean Club, and more. And well, the White House and the president and those in MAGA circles claimed that they were boycotting the show. But newly released footage today shows quite the opposite. It was actually playing at Donald Trump's private Super Bowl party. Take a look. Playing at Trump's Super Bowl Super Bowl party during the halftime. And while it really was a show that united a lot of Americans to the point where people who had never even heard of Bad Bunny were saying, wow, what a good message he put out. Take a listen to this caller from C-SPAN this morning.
I think our country is in such a critical period right now. And the Super Bowl is an event, to me, even greater than a sporting event. It's a cultural event. And I think it's important that at the halftime that someone be allowed.
Brilliant, wonderful way to bring us together. And it comes as we are reaching a historic moment in the Epstein files. I've continued to review tens of thousands of Epstein files, and this week is a very consequential week. Today, Ghislaine Maxwell will be testifying under oath in front of the House Oversight Committee. On Wednesday, Attorney General Pam Bondi will be testifying under oath in front of the House Judiciary Committee. In addition, members of Congress will begin today reviewing unredacted files at the Department of Justice, unredacted Epstein files. And while ahead of Ghislaine Maxwell's deposition today, the survivors released the following statement. They essentially write in no uncertain terms that Oversight Committee members should not trust Ghislaine Maxwell. They say, we write to you as survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking operation in advance of the committee's upcoming hearing at which Ghislaine Maxwell is expected to provide sworn testimony. We write to you because many of us were gravely harmed by Miss Maxwell over the course of decades. It goes on to say, Miss Maxwell was not a peripheral figure. She was a central and indispensable architect of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking enterprise. Despite this, she has refused to meaningfully cooperate with law enforcement or provide credible, complete information about the scope of the trafficking network. Instead, she has repeatedly minimized her own conduct, obscured the role of others, and withheld critical information about those who assisted Epstein, those who participated in the abuse, and those who financially benefited from the exploitation of children. To this day, Ms. Maxwell has refused to identify the many powerful men involved in the trafficking operation. She has also been dishonest about the vast sums of money she received as a result of her role in facilitating sexual abuse. This continued refusal to disclose the full truth has actively impeded accountability and prolonged harm to survivors. Quote, "We urge the committee to approach Ms. Maxwell's testimony with the utmost skepticism, to rigorously scrutinize any claims she made, and to ensure that this process does not become another vehicle through which survivors are harmed or silenced. Truth, accountability, and transparency must be the priority, not the rehabilitation of a convicted sex trafficker's narrative. Survivors have waited decades for meaningful accountability. We ask that Congress not allow this moment to be used to rewrite history or obscure the truth once again." And it was signed by a number of survivors. And so we're at a critical juncture in these Epstein files, in the search for the truth, in the search for accountability for these survivors. Ghislaine Maxwell is expected to plead the fifth, despite the fact that all of her appeals are relatively exhausted in her criminal case. She has a pending habeas issue, but that's not necessarily related to the underlying facts in the criminal case that she was indicted and convicted in. And so she's expected to take the Fifth Amendment, avoid speaking, avoid commenting, to protect it against self-incrimination. And so we're going to see what happens during today's hearing. Then I'm going to be on the ground for you during the Bondi hearing on Capitol Hill on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be meeting with members of Congress, speaking with survivors all week. This is a story that cannot and will not die, not if I had it my way, because I think the truth and getting the truth out is far too important. So I have some more updates coming soon regarding what's actually in these files, because I think a lot of people need to know, especially connections like Steve Bannon to Jeffrey Epstein, relationships that people haven't talked about enough, essentially. So spread the word, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll have another update for you soon.